Rain has a unique way of transforming ordinary nights into something more ominous. The patter of raindrops against windows, the howling wind, the occasional flash of lightning that momentarily illuminates the darkness, these elements create the perfect backdrop for the unexplainable. I've collected some of the most chilling true stories that occurred on rainy nights, shared by those who lived to tell them. So get comfortable, because the stories I'm about to share might make you think twice about what could be lurking outside when the rain starts to fall. Our first story comes from a woman named Sarah, who experienced something truly terrifying while driving home during a severe thunderstorm. I was driving home from my late shift at the hospital around 1 a.m. The rain was coming down in sheets, making visibility almost zero. I live in rural Minnesota, and the roads leading to my house are winding and poorly lit. That night, they were practically invisible beneath the flood of rainwater. I had slowed to about 20 miles per hour, gripping the steering wheel with white knuckles as my windshield wipers fought a losing battle against the downpour. The radio was cutting in and out, mostly static with occasional fragments of music. I turned it off, preferring the sound of rain to the jarring interference. About 5 miles from my house, I approached a particularly dark stretch of road that cuts through a densely wooded area. No streetlights, no houses, just trees on both sides, their branches reaching over the road like skeletal fingers. As I navigated a sharp curve, my headlights illuminated something in the middle of the road. At first, I thought it was a fallen branch or maybe a deer. We get a lot of those around here. But as I got closer, I realized it was a person, a woman in a white nightgown, standing perfectly still in the pouring rain. Her head was down, long dark hair plastered to her face and shoulders. She didn't move, didn't try to flag me down, just stood there as the rain soaked her through. My first instinct was concern. Was she hurt? Had there been an accident? Despite every horror movie warning, never to stop for strangers on deserted roads, I'm a nurse. Helping people is what I do. I slowed the car, coming to a stop about 20 feet away from her. I flashed my lights, thinking she might approach if she needed help. She didn't move. I rolled down my window just a crack and called out, "Miss, are you okay? Do you need help?" The rain immediately began pelting through the opening, but I kept my eyes on her, waiting for a response. Still nothing. Just complete stillness that felt utterly wrong given the violence of the storm around her. Something about the situation felt increasingly off. Why would anyone be standing in the middle of nowhere in a nightgown during a thunderstorm at 1 a.m.? I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the rain coming through my window. I decided to call 911 instead of getting out. As I reached for my phone, the woman's head suddenly snapped up. Even through the rain-blurred windshield, I could see there was something terribly wrong with her face. It was too pale, too empty, and her eyes reflected my headlights like an animal's would, with that eerie yellow-green glow. Before I could process what I was seeing, she moved. Not toward my car, as I'd feared, but straight up into the air, at least 6 feet off the ground in one impossible leap. Then she was gone, like she'd been snatched into the darkness above. I didn't wait around. I slammed my foot on the gas and tore down that road faster than was safe given the conditions. When I finally reached home, I was shaking so badly I could barely get my key in the door. I did call the police once I was safely inside. They sent a patrol car to check the area, but found nothing. No woman, no evidence anyone had been there at all. The officer suggested I might have seen a deer that bolted in an unusual way, or that the combination of fatigue and poor visibility had played tricks on my mind. But I know what I saw, and in the 3 years since that night, I've taken the longer route home from work. I don't drive down that stretch of road anymore, especially not when it's raining. That's Sarah's story, and I've heard similar accounts from other drivers in rural areas during rainstorms. There's something about the combination of isolation, limited visibility, and the hypnotic sound of heavy rain that seems to thin the veil between our world and whatever exists beyond it. Our next story comes from James, a a college student who had a frightening experience in his campus apartment during a particularly violent thunderstorm. This happened during my sophomore year of college. I was living in an off-campus apartment complex that primarily housed students, one of those places where the rent is cheap, the walls are thin, and maintenance requests go to die. But it was affordable and close to campus, so I didn't complain. My roommate had gone home for the weekend, so I had the place to myself. It was a Friday night in October, and a massive storm system had moved in. The forecasters had been warning about it for days, potential for flash flooding, high winds, the works. By nightfall, it was living up to the hype. The rain hammered against the windows, and the wind howled through the gaps in the cheap window frames. I'd settled in for a night of video games and junk food, typical college stuff. Around midnight, the power flickered and went out completely. Not surprising given the intensity of the storm, but annoying. I fumbled around for my phone to use as a flashlight and lit a few candles I had around for exactly this scenario. The apartment felt different in the darkness, bigger somehow and unfamiliar. The storm seemed louder without the background noise of the TV and refrigerator, and shadows danced on the walls with each flash of lightning. I decided to just go to bed early and hope the power would be back by morning. I was just about to blow out the candles when I heard a knock at my door. 3 solid raps, distinctly audible even over the storm. I checked the time, 12:37 a.m. Not impossibly late for a college apartment complex, but still weird timing. I approached the door cautiously and called out, "Who is it?" No answer, just another set of knocks, more insistent this time. I had a peephole, so I looked through it. The hallway was dark due to the power outage, but I could make out a figure standing there. It looked like a man in a hooded raincoat, head slightly bowed, water dripping onto the hallway carpet. "What do you want?" I called through the door, not planning to open it. Campus security had sent out emails about potential burglars targeting students during power outages, and I wasn't taking chances. The figure raised its head slightly, but I still couldn't see a face inside the hood, just darkness. Then a voice came, raspy and strangely flat, like someone trying to remember how to speak. "Need to use your phone. Car broke down." Something about the voice made my skin crawl. It didn't sound right. There was no inflection, no natural rhythm to the words. And why would someone knock on a random apartment door in a student complex if their car broke down? The building had a management office, albeit closed at this hour, and plenty of students would still be awake in common areas with their phones. "Sorry," I said, "I can't help you. Try the apartment next door." The figure didn't move. Then, slowly, it raised a hand and placed it flat against my door. I noticed then that the hand looked wrong, too long, fingers too thin, the skin an odd grayish color in the brief illumination from a lightning flash. "Let me in," the voice said, dropping any pretense of normalcy. It was deeper now, with a strange gurgling quality. "I need to come in." I backed away from the door, heart pounding. "Go away or I'm calling campus security," I threatened, though my phone was nearly dead and I doubted I could get a signal in the storm anyway. The pounding started then, not knocking anymore, but hammering like it was trying to break the door down. The entire door shook in its frame. I grabbed my nearly dead phone and retreated to my bedroom, locking that door as well, and pushing my dresser in front of it. The pounding continued for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Then, abruptly, it stopped. The sudden silence was almost as terrifying as the noise had been. I sat on my bed, straining to hear any sound over the storm. After a few minutes of silence, I heard something new, a slow, wet, sliding sound moving past my bedroom window. My apartment was on the 3rd floor. A lightning flash illuminated a silhouette pressed against my window, a distorted, elongated shape that couldn't possibly be human, despite its roughly humanoid form. I could see fingers, too many fingers, splayed against the glass. I closed my eyes and started counting, telling myself that when I opened them, it would be gone. When I reached 10 and looked again, the window was empty. I spent the rest of the night huddled on my bed, wide awake until dawn broke. The storm had passed by then, leaving behind a clear, calm morning that made the events of the night seem impossible. When I finally worked up the courage to leave my room, I went straight to the front door. There were deep gouges in the wood, 4 parallel lines repeated in several places, as if something with claws had been trying to get in. When I mentioned this to my landlord later, he suggested it must have been there before and I'd never noticed it. I know that wasn't true. I also know that whatever was at my door that night wasn't human, and it wasn't just looking for a phone to use. It wanted in, and I'm convinced that if I had opened that door, I would never have been seen again. James's story highlights something many people have experienced: